time for change to everything and absolutely anything. But with that being said, the most obvious question could be how's this all to begin? Yet if it were to be left in the unknown state, and although this is also to involve the explorative experience that is able to be described as the walk of life, but if it were to also explore the sensational notion of respect within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. Now, the idea of respect has been described to treat with esteem or to show consideration. And if we were to explore the idea of esteem, it has been described to think highly of or to consider. And then, if we were to explore the idea of consideration, it has been described as thoughtfulness. But what is thoughtfulness? Well, if thought is able to be directed towards knowledge, this is a clear indication that thoughtfulness is to be filled with knowledge. Now, this is also able to be directed towards the 12th spiritual dimensional realm, which has been described to be in existence within an infinite state of an infinite amount of knowledge. But again, acknowledging that it is so infinite, it is also able to be described as questionable. But also acknowledging that this questionable, infinite amount of knowledge has also come to exist without the sensational state that is either to be influenced or inspired through or by the infinitely known sensational state of emotion. Recognizing that it is the infinitely known sensational state of emotion that is also able to sensationally direct this infinite amount of questionable, chaotic knowledge to an infinitely known sensational state of an emotional meaning. So on that note, if it is to describe the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness within an infinite state of knowledge, recognizing that this infinite state of knowledge is also able to be described as questionable. And again, this questionable knowledge is also able to inspire or influence a confused state upon the emotional consciousness. So, on that note, again, lost thoughts, as with chaotic and questionable knowledge, isn't able to discover a sensational, directive, meaningful state to the sensational, emotional vibrations of the emotional consciousness, which are able to be described as peace, love, happiness, truth, possibilities, creativity, and freedom. Again, lost thoughts and confused emotions are confused about these sensational states. Recognizing that this is also able to be described as influencing a sensational state of sadness upon the mental capacity of an individual, as with a sensational state of suffering upon the emotional consciousness of the individual. So if it were to exist within the sensational state of sadness, as within a state of emotional suffering, this is again able to be described as emotionally, physically existing within a state of darkness, which is obviously also able to be directed towards the 12th spiritual dimensional realm. Okay, so if it were to acknowledge that it is to emotionally, physically exist surrounded by an infinite amount of questionable sensational knowledge, to be sensationally, physically acknowledged with a questionable state of ego, it would be acknowledging that the sensational state of sadness, as with the emotional state of suffering, has only inspired or influenced the ego's questionable state to discover a meaningful, known happiness within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. Recognizing that if the ego has been described as the 12th spiritual dimensional realm, which again has been described to be within an infinite state of an infinite amount of questionable, chaotic knowledge, it would be acknowledging that the ego is to use its own questionable knowledge to find different directions to a distinguished idea of an emotional known happiness within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. But again, it would be acknowledging that these different directions are also able to be constantly and continuously questioned, as with this distinguished state of emotional, meaningful happiness, recognizing that it is still to exist within a state of lost thoughts and within a state of an emotional confusion, recognizing that it is still existing within a sensational state of sadness as within a sensational state of emotional suffering, recognizing that if we were to explore the idea of respect within regards to the ego has come to respect itself. Its esteem thinks only highly of its own emotions, and its respect is only considers its own emotions, recognizing that the ego is able to be described as selfish and lives and breathes for its own emotional idea of happiness. Okay, so if we were to equally realize and recognize that the infinite amount of questionable chaotic knowledge has been sensationally attracted unto and into the infinitely known sensational state of emotion through or by the sensational vibrational energy of emotion, thus sensationally changing the infinite amount of chaotic questionable knowledge into a peaceful, truthful, infinitely known, sensational, descriptive state of knowledge with emotional meaning, whereby this is a clear indication that the 10th spiritual dimensional realm is able to be described as being filled with the infinite amount of known knowledge with emotional meaning. But if the 10th spiritual dimensional realm has also been described as an infinitely known sensational state of emotion, it would be acknowledging that through sensationally changing this infinite amount of questionable chaotic knowledge into an infinitely known sensational descriptive state, it has come to creatively produce an infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness. But if all existing life has originated from this 10th spiritual dimensional realm, we would be acknowledging that all existing life is existing with this infinitely known sensational state of emotional happiness, as with the emotional vibrational energy of love, recognizing that this is able to be discovered within plants, insects, birds, fish, animals, individuals, and even within the emotional, physically descriptive state of existence as the earth, recognizing that soil has even been described as a living and breathing organism. So if it has been acknowledged that it is to have originated from this 10th spiritual dimensional realm, which has been described as an infinitely known sensational state of emotional happiness, as with also originating from the 8th and 6th spiritual dimensional realms, which have also both been described as an infinitely known sensational state of emotional happiness, to emotionally physically exist within the 3rd spiritual dimensional realm of emotional physically descriptive state of existence as the earth, this would be a clear indication that it is to emotionally physically exist within the state of an infinitely known sensational state of emotional happiness, recognizing that this is also to be described as an infinitely known sensational state of emotional oneness, if it were to also again have originated from 3 different spiritual dimensional realms to emotionally physically exist within the 3rd spiritual dimensional realm. It is again acknowledging a clear indication that it is to exist within an emotional state of oneness. Okay, so if we were to acknowledge that it is to emotionally physically exist surrounded by infinite amounts of sensational questionable descriptive knowledge, that is to be sensationally acknowledged with the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness. This would also be acknowledging that this infinite amount of sensational, questionable descriptive knowledge has also been sensationally attracted unto the infinitely known sensational state of the emotion through it being sensationally acknowledged. So if it were to sensationally discover emotional meaning to this infinite amount of sensational, questionable descriptive knowledge, this is easily able to be directed towards that of the emotional meditative experience, recognizing that this is when an infinite amount of sensational, questionable descriptive knowledge is sensationally attracted into the infinitely known sensational state of the emotion through the sensational vibrational energy of emotion, which is that of love. So through it being sensationally attracted into the infinitely unknown sensational state of the emotion, it also comes to sensationally change this sensational, questionable state of the infinite amount of descriptive knowledge into the infinitely known sensational state of the infinite amount of descriptive knowledge, thus creating a state of an emotional state of clarity that is able to be sensationally explored as with sensationally experienced with the infinitely known sensational state of the emotional awareness. But where this infinitely known sensational state of the emotional awareness is also able to sensationally acknowledge a meaningful emotional state to this infinite amount of sensational, questionable descriptive knowledge that is also able to sensationally inspire or influence the sensational, questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness into a state of emotional clarity as well, recognizing that the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness will come to sensationally know the meaning without question. So, on a broader perspective of this, if it were then to sensationally explore this infinite amount of sensational, questionable, descriptive knowledge with the sensational vibrational energy of emotion, which again is with love, recognizing that this is sensationally exploring the sensational, questionable state of the infinite amount of descriptive knowledge with the sensational state of compassion, where it is to sensationally embrace or feel the sensational vibrational energies of emotion that are attached to this infinite amount of sensational, questionable, descriptive knowledge, recognizing that this is to emotionally feel or embrace the sensational vibrational energies of peace, love, happiness, truth, possibilities, and freedom with the infinitely known sensational state of the emotional, meaningful consciousness. But again, it is also acknowledging that it is the infinitely known sensational state of the emotional, meaningful consciousness that is also able to then sensationally inspire or influence the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness into a sensationally known state, recognizing that this is again when the ego will come into a state of emotional clarity, recognizing that it will sensationally just know the meaning of the knowledge that has been sensationally acknowledged. Okay, lost thoughts and confused emotions are only to inspire or influence the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness to seek out sensational guidance to the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness within this emotional physically descriptive state of existence. But with the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness being so totally lost in thought about universal spiritual guidance, which is able to be sensationally explored as with experience through that of the emotional meditative experience, or through just simply feeling the sensational vibrational energies of emotion that sensationally exist within this infinite amount of sensational questionable descriptive knowledge, with the infinitely known sensational state of the emotional meaningful consciousness, recognizing that it is the infinitely known sensational state of the emotional meaningful consciousness that is also able to sensationally guide the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness into a sensationally known state of emotional meaning, recognizing that this known state of emotional meaning is to be that of the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness within this emotional physically descriptive state of existence. But again, lost thoughts and confused emotions are to be sensationally attracted to what I can physically describe within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, recognizing that it has sought out sensational guidance from these ideas of governments, corporations, organizations, institutions, and industries, again, who are all being operated by the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness of other individuals. So we'll be recognizing that the questionable state of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness has not only sought out sensational guidance from the ideas of governments, corporations, organizations, institutions, and industries, but who have also come to sensationally seek out guidance from the other questionable states of the egotistical perspective state of thought consciousness of the other individuals who are operating these ideas. But again, with these ideas also sensationally inspiring and influencing the idea that the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness is able to be sensationally discovered within the physical state of money. It is also acknowledging that these ideas have also come to use the emotional state of the individual to gain this idea of the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness within the physical state of money. But again, this has also come to influence the followers to do the exact same, recognizing that individuals have come to use other individuals to also gain the idea of the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness within the physical state of money. But as this constantly progresses, it is acknowledging that the follower has become the follower of the follower of the follower. And again, this is able to be described as being a slave to the idea of the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness within the physical state of money. So what is money? Well, if money is able to be measured in numbers, it is able to be described as an infinite amount of knowledge that exists without the sensational state of the emotional, meaningful consciousness. So it is able to be described as the questionable, chaotic, infinite amount of knowledge that exists within the 12th spiritual dimensional realm. But again, if this infinite amount of questionable, chaotic knowledge has been sensationally attracted unto and into the infinitely known sensational state of emotion, it is again acknowledging that it is to use the physical state of money to sensationally produce or inspire the infinitely known sensational state of emotional, meaningful happiness within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, recognizing that this is able to be described as that of the sensational, emotional experience, recognizing that this is when the sensational, vibrational energies of emotion are able to be sensationally explored as with experience, recognizing that these sensational vibrational energies are to be that of peace, love, happiness, truth, possibilities, and that of creativity and freedom. Okay, so I would be openly admitting that for the past 16 or 17 years I have met a lot of Rastafari around this country, and I've always appreciated the words of blessings, blessed, Ari, or one love being stated by these individuals as part of their emotional beliefs, as part of their religious beliefs, as part of their way of life, as their emotional individuals, as who they are within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. So when I came to meet this individual who spent much time in individual within this country, and I came to be astounded by this word and intrigued by this word and then fascinated by this word of Namaste constantly being said as not just a mere hello or goodbye, but as a praise of joy for something good happening or for something good to happen. So when I came to ask this individual about this word and why he was also stating this word the whole time, he also came to explain it in such a state of clarity that truly intrigued me to also come to emotionally inspire this word within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. So if we were to explore the word of Namaste, it has been described as the divine in me honors the divine in you. I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you which is of love, of truth, of light, and of peace. When you are in this place in you, and I am in this place in me, we are one. Or it has also been described as, my soul honors your soul. I honor the love, light, beauty, truth, and kindness within you, because it also exists within me. When you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, we are one. Or it has also been described as, my soul recognizes your soul. I honor the light, love, beauty, truth, and kindness within you, because it also exists within me. In sharing these things, there is no difference and no distance between us. We are the same. We are one. So again, if we were to acknowledge that this word is more than a just mere greeting as a hello or a goodbye, it is able to be described as a sensational notion of a universal calling for the infinitely known sensational state of happiness to be inspired and created within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, recognizing that through sharing this word is also sharing the respect of the infinitely known sensational emotional state of meaningful happiness that exists not only within our own state of self, but also within the infinitely known sensational states of the emotional meaningful consciousness of other existing beings, recognizing that again through sharing this sensation, through the sensational emotional vibrational energy of love, this is again to only inspire and create the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness to sensationally exist within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. And through it sensationally existing within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, it is also coming to create an infinitely known sensational state of emotional, meaningful oneness within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. But again, lost thoughts and confused emotions, we try and throw this word into the pits of darkness, as with all those individuals who have come to state with this word, recognizing that they are so lost and confused about the universal emotional meaning of this word that they are trying to either inspire or create the sensational state of sadness, as with the emotional state of suffering, to be sensationally explored as was sensationally experienced by all those who have come to state this word, as with individuals stating, peace be with you, salaikum alam, alam salaikum, blessed, many blessings, Ari vibes all the way, peace, one love, I love you, who knows. All these positive words should be inspired within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, as through releasing these words, through emotional vibrational energies, it is creating the infinitely known sensational states of emotional meaningful happiness within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, recognizing that we are completing the infinitely known sensational states of emotional meaningful happiness within this emotional physical descriptive state of existence. Okay, so I'm mentioning the walk of life. Again, this is to be an emotional explorative experience, a fully documented emotional explorative experience, 420 kilometer journey that will be entirely walked, exploring roads, towns, beaches, forests, and into the mystically unknown, to reveal the emotional, physically descriptive state of existence within the sensational, definitive state of an emotional, meaningful life. Again, this is also able to be described as a sensational notion against the sensational state of emotional depression that exists within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. And yet it is sensationally acknowledging that there are those with confused emotions and lost thoughts who have come to ridicule and insult this positive sensational notion that is against the sensational states of emotional depression, again, which exists within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, recognizing that although this sensational notion is only trying to inspire infinitely known sensational states of an emotional, meaningful happiness to be sensationally acknowledged within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, these insults and ridicules have only come to sensationally reveal their own sensational state of sadness and emotional suffering that they are trying to inflict upon this positive sensational notion, which is against the sensational state of emotional depression within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. Again, even though this sensational positive notion is again trying to sensationally inspire others to sensationally acknowledge that the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful happiness is within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence, but it is also trying to sensationally inspire others that the infinitely known sensational state of emotional meaningful oneness is also within this emotional, physically descriptive state of existence. So it would be acknowledging that these individuals with lost thoughts and chaotic thoughts and confused emotions are again only expressing their own sensational sadness as with emotional suffering through inflicting these insults, recognizing that if it were to end this off politely, if arrogant intelligence is to insult positive intelligence or intelligence in general, it is only able to be described as a moronic. Seriously. So may the lovers keep on loving and the haters keep on hating, and with that being within equal understanding, may it be so.